When another hurls an insult, it is never the sound of their words that wounds us, but the echo we create within ourselves. Insults are like stones cast into still water. What disturbs the surface is not the stone itself, but the ripples we allow to spread. The first impulse of the mind is to defend, to push back, to return the stone with a heavier one. But the deeper truth is that the harm never truly rests in the insult, for the sound fades almost as quickly as it arrives. The harm grows only when the mind continues to replay it, to rehearse it, to transform it into an internal drama that lasts far beyond the moment. Think of a calm lake in the early morning, perfectly still, reflecting the sky above it like a mirror. A pebble is dropped into it, and for a while, the ripples disturb the surface. But unless one keeps dropping pebble after pebble, the water soon finds its stillness again. So it is with the mind when insult strikes. If we allow the event to pass, the insult dissolves like a ripple returning to silence. If we resist replay or attach meaning, the ripples become waves and the stillness is lost. The insult then becomes not what was said, but the story we tell ourselves about what was said. The greatest difficulty lies not in hearing harsh words, but in what we decide they mean. Someone may say we are weak, foolish, or unworthy. Yet these words have no weight until we pick them up and carry them. The echo of insult is a burden of our own making. If you leave the insult where it fell, it has no life beyond that fleeting moment. If you clutch it, question it, turn it over in your mind, you make yourself the custodian of another's bitterness. Thus, the power to wound is never in the insult, but in the willingness to cradle it. This is not to say that one should deny the sting. The sting is natural, the jolt of contact with another's harshness. But the sting is only a spark. What follows, whether it becomes fire or fades into the air, depends entirely on our inner handling. Fire needs fuel, and in the case of insult, the fuel is our attention. To dwell on the words, to feed them with thought, to water them with self. Doubt is to light a blaze that consumes peace. To let them pass, to let them vanish as quickly as they came, is to refuse them the dignity of permanence. Every insult is a revelation of the insulter's state, not the insulted. A person who spits venom is, in truth, showing you the bitterness within their own heart. Just as the taste of water reveals the nature of the spring it came from, so do words reveal the well they rose out of. An insult speaks less of you than it does of the one who shaped it. Yet the mind, untamed and quick to judge, seizes the insult as if it were evidence of some hidden flaw within ourselves. In this grasping, the insult is carried home like a guest who should never have been invited, and we find it speaking in the silence of our own rooms. Consider how often the sting of insult lingers not for minutes, but for hours or even years. Someone may tell you something cruel in childhood, and though they have long forgotten, you may find it replaying decades later. The words, which in truth vanished like smoke, became etched because the mind kept scratching at them, repeating them, until they seemed carved into stone. Yet even stone erodes when left to the rain. The insult was never as eternal as it appeared. It was we who gave it permanence by holding it in memory's grasp. The art, then, is in releasing insult before it becomes echo. It is in recognizing the momentary sting for what it is, a sound, a vibration, a passing flicker in the air. Like thunder that rolls through the sky, it cannot remain. You never see thunder carried in jars or kept upon a shelf. It announces itself, and then it is gone. To treat insult as thunder is to refuse it, the permanence of meaning. To hear it, acknowledge its passing, and allow the silence to return, is the mark of a mind that values its stillness more than its pride. Yet pride is the great snare. Pride tells us that every insult must be met, that every stone thrown must be answered with a wall or another stone. Pride insists that we defend the fragile image we hold of ourselves, as though silence would mean defeat. But silence is not defeat. It is the recognition that the battle was never yours to begin with. The insulter is not truly speaking to you. They are speaking to their own disquiet, their own discontent, their own need to wound in order to relieve themselves of the burden they carry. When you do not answer, you reveal that the burden was never yours, and the cycle of hurt stops with you. Imagine a man shouting into a canyon. His voice echoes back, not because the canyon chooses to reply, but because it is shaped to return sound. To insult someone is like shouting into the canyon of their mind. If their mind is shaped by pride, the insult will echo endlessly. If their mind is shaped by stillness, the insult falls silent, no echo returns, and the shouter finds only their own voice returning to them. In this way, the one who refuses to echo insult not only frees themselves, but also leaves the insulter to confront the sound of their own making. To recognize the ripple of reaction is to see that our peace is always our own to keep or surrender. The insult may arrive at any time from any person, but whether it remains is entirely our choice. We cannot stop stones from being thrown, but we can decide whether our waters remain clear or become disturbed. And once you see that the ripple was never inevitable but chosen, the grip of insult begins to dissolve. If you mirror the insult, you become the insult. When someone lashes out with bitterness or contempt, the temptation is strong to return it in equal measure. The mind whispers that justice demands reply, that to remain silent is weakness, and that to reflect insult back upon the one who gave it is a kind of victory. Yet in that very moment of imitation, something subtle and tragic occurs. You are no longer yourself. You have stepped into the shape of another's shadow, and in doing so, you have let their anger become your own voice. The tragedy is not that someone degraded you, but that you begin to believe you must answer in their language. It is like hearing a discordant note and deciding to play the same discord again, believing it will restore harmony. In truth, it only deepens the dissonance. An insult seeks to pull you downward, to drag you into the swamp where the one who spoke it already stands. When you respond in kind, you do not pull them up. You sink down beside them. To imitate cruelty is to lose your own voice. You are given a melody, a rhythm, a tone that is unique. And when you trade it for the rough sounds of insult, you abandon the song of your own being. The power of non-imitation is precisely this: to remain sovereign over your own voice, to decide that no matter what ugliness is hurled at you, you will not let it shape your reply. In this refusal lies strength, for imitation is not only surrender to another's manner, but also surrender to their pain. Consider how insults are born. A person who speaks cruelly is rarely at peace within themselves. Their words are sparks thrown off from the fire of their own unrest. To imitate their insult is to take on their suffering as your own, to become an echo of their unresolved anguish. The power lies not in echoing, but in standing apart, in recognizing that what they cast upon you is not truly yours to carry. Their insult reveals their wound, their bitterness, their struggle. And if you do not imitate, you reveal instead your freedom from those same chains. This path is not one of denial, nor of cold indifference. It is not a refusal to acknowledge the sting or the injustice. It is rather the choice to answer in a higher language, a language not shaped by the bitterness of the moment, but by the clarity of your deeper nature. The refusal to imitate is a declaration: I will not become what wounds me. It is a turning away from the easy reflex of retaliation, and a turning inward toward the strength of dignity. In every moment of insult, a silent invitation is given. One path leads downward into the familiar cycle of insult and counter-insult, where each word wounds and each wound demands another word in return. The other path leads upward into stillness, where insult is acknowledged as noise but not allowed to dictate the music of your soul. The downward path binds you to the insulter, making you dependent upon their tone. The upward path frees you, because your response arises not from them, but from the space of your own choosing. There is immense dignity in restraint, though to the mind governed by pride it may appear otherwise. Restraint is not weakness, but mastery. The mastery of not letting another decide what voice you will use. Think of a flame surrounded by winds. If the flame flickers wildly at every gust, it is at the mercy of whatever passes by. But if it burns steady, sheltered within itself, it remains unchanged, no matter the winds that roar against it. The one who refuses imitation is like this flame, steady, unyielding, and luminous in their own light. This is not only a matter of personal peace, but also of influence. When you answer insult with insult, you merely prove to the insulter that their language works, that their weapon has struck its mark. They are emboldened, confirmed in their power to unsettle you. But when you answer with non-imitation, whether by silence or by calm words that do not mirror their bitterness, you reveal the impotence of insult. You show that their attempt to wound has failed, not because you denied the sting, but because you refuse to be drawn into its orbit. This quiet demonstration often unsettles the insulter more deeply than any return insult could, for it forces them to face their own words without the cushion of a mirrored reply. The refusal to imitate creates a pause in the chain of reaction. That pause is a moment of liberation. In that space, you are no longer bound to act in the way expected of you. The world often runs on reflex, anger met with anger, contempt met with contempt, insult met with insult. In breaking that chain, you step into freedom. And in that freedom, you offer the possibility of change, not only for yourself, but perhaps even for the one who insulted you. For when their insult meets not its mirror, but its opposite, they are forced to confront the futility of their act. To refuse imitation is not to withdraw from life, but to engage it more fully, with greater awareness. It is to see that every interaction is not merely about words exchanged, but about the shaping of the spirit. In choosing not to imitate cruelty, you cultivate a spirit that is resilient, dignified, and unshaken. Over time, this becomes a habit of being, a steady refusal to let another dictate the course of your inner life. The power of non-imitation lies in its simplicity. It does not require elaborate defenses, clever retorts, or grand displays of control. It requires only the quiet strength to remain yourself in the face of provocation. That strength is not easily won, for it demands that you lay aside pride and the need to prove yourself. But once embraced, it grants a freedom that no insult can take away. For you no longer measure your worth in the mirror of another's words. When you understand that every insult is a revelation of another's suffering, a window into their unrest, your heart begins to soften. You no longer feel the same urge to retaliate, for you see that their cruelty is born not from strength, but from weakness, not from clarity, but from confusion. To imitate them would be to take on their suffering. To refuse imitation is to remain free, dignified, and whole. And in this refusal lies the quiet power of a life lived beyond the reach of insult.